I love the November series, best teams of the world going head to head, and the first weekend didn't disappoint. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. First up, we had Italy 49, Samoa 17. For the first 20 minutes or so, no scores really in the game. Samoa hang in there. Italy do finally break over. They have a line out in the 22. The ball is spread into the middle. Then Ignacio Brex picks a lovely line that splits the defense. He gets in behind. He then steps to cover. He goes in under the post. It's converted. Within a couple of minutes, then they get a second try. They're going coast to coast. Samoa were on the attack. Italy get the ball. They break out to 22. There's a lovely offload in the middle of it from Brex, where he basically offloads out of the tackle to keep the move going. Varney then is breaking into the 22, and he picks out Bruno, who puts on a burst of pace to go through the defenders and over. We then have another try for Italy, where Monte Ione, he's out on left-hand wing. Italy are under the posts. They spread the ball out wide. He kind of picks the ball up. It's not a great pass. He picks the ball up off his toes, but then he's able to go from there. He steps and he goes in the corner. Then into the second half, he gets his second try. Italy they have a scrum in the 22. They have three players out on the left wing and they have a bit of an overlap. They got the ball out to Ione. There's a decent enough covering tackle, but he's strong enough to ride that and go over. He probably did have the ball in the wrong hand, and maybe against better opposition than Samoa, he might, it might have been dislodged, but he's able to dot down. Then we get the first of the Samoan tries, so the centers combine to send Sauteni over a move close to the line, and any of the island teams, just because you tackle them doesn't mean that the ball is dead. They're always going to try and offload out of the tackle, and that's what happens. There's an offload off the deck. He takes it up and he's able to go over. Italy on the attack. There's a nice ball from Garbisi that pretty much cuts out the defense and sends Canoni in the corner. Then they do tack on another try before Samoa get their other two, I think. So Garbisi, again, attacking very close to the line. Garbisi kicks in behind the defense. The ball sits up for Bruno, who's able to dot down. Then we have, I believe, Samoa's second try. So Bruno, he's trying to run out of his own 22. He gets caught. Samoa turn over the ball. And then Paya Awa goes over. He's on as a substitute, right? He goes over in the corner. And then the last say in the game went to Samoa as well with McFarland. So Samoa on the attack, just outside the 22. There's a nice offload at the tackle to him. He then puts on a decent fend, steps the defender, a little bit of pace there. And then he just shows like power and size really to get over with Lamaro was hanging on to him, but he just had that size bit to stretch out over onto the line. For Italy, it's good to see them getting a win because they don't win that often when you think about it. When, in the Six Nations, they're lucky to get one win in a season. And then, when it's the summer tours and stuff, like they lost against Georgia in the summer, and they don't really get that many games against top opposition outside of the Six Nations. Like their club sides have been improving in the URC, and we've seen that year on year. It's taken a while for that improvement to show in the Six Nations, but they did manage to get a win against Wales. But I still think they're the kind of side where it's never just always an upward trend with them. There's going to be setbacks and that kind of thing. So it's just nice to see them getting a win and getting a bit of confidence. For Samoa, it's just kind of nice to see them getting a game against a tier 1 nation, even if it is Italy. And I really wish that, we could get the likes of Samoa and Fiji as tier 1 nations, and not just like, not the way that they did with Japan and said, okay, let's make Japan a tier 1 nation, because what tier 1 was before they did that to Japan was that tier 1 meant that you were a team in one of the top 2 competitions in the world, either the Six Nations or the Rugby Championship. So I think they should have made Japan tier 1 and put them in the Rugby Championship, because that just makes sense in terms of television for game times and stuff like that. And for the island teams as well, I think something similar has to happen for them, that they have to be in a higher level competition where they can get better. Next up then for Italy will be Australia. Next, again, going to be a real test for them. Hopefully they can stay in the game for more than kind of the traditional kind of 50 minutes or so, and actually give Australia a game. You know, I'm not expecting them to win, but at least, you know, make a good fist of it and try and give Australia a decent game. Next up was Scotland 28, Fiji 12. So Scotland got an early try on the board through Turner. It was a driving maul. He's at the back. He's able to go down. The kind of try that we see a lot now in the test arena and at like kind of club level as well. Fiji then, though, they're able to hit back through Tui Suvu. So they're on attack. There's a nice ball out to the right wing. He's got a bit of space. He puts on some pace and then shows good strength as well to get in the corner and dot it down and keep himself in touch under pressure. Then Fiji take the lead with their next score. So it's Rotui Solia. They're attacking close to the line. They've already got a penalty advantage, and it's kind of just a pick and go. And he just has enough strength to force his way over for that. So I believe Fiji then were leading 12-7 at that point. Just before halftime, though, Scotland do hit back and take the lead, attacking very close to the post, and it looks like Fiji have a decent defense set, but Hastings with almost a Surveyor-esque dummy, not as audacious as Surveyor's one, but still throws the dummy, defense opens up for him, and he goes in under the post. Scotland leading 14-12 at half time. We had a couple of yellow cards in the first half then as well. There was one right in the first minute for Rotui Solia, and Hogg got one as well on 24 minutes. I think in the whole game there were 5 yellow cards, so that's a lot for a test. I think that the biggest one, the one that I heard people talking about, was Hobosi. This happened in the second half where Fiji were on the attack. Scotland turned the ball over, and then he puts in a hit, which is basically a forearm to the head. There, you know, some people were saying that it should have been a red card. I could definitely see that, but he gets a yellow for that. But back to the action itself, the rugby. Scotland in the second half, they kind of pull away. It was, you know, Fiji really put up to them for the first half, but Scotland kind of got their act together a little bit in the second half. They're on attack, penalty advantage again. There's a nice long ball out to Van der Merwe, a burst, and basically just uses power to get over. He is tackled, but he's able to get down and get the ball down as well. Then, just as we were kind of wrapping up, then Scotland get the fourth try. So it looked like a bit of tired legs, because by the time White got the ball, he's on for Price at 9, and it's almost a walk-in for him. And the biggest hit he actually got was from his own player in celebration, who kind of knocked him over. I don't know what it is with Scotland and celebrations trying to injure each other, but there's another one for you. But overall, between the teams, as I said, Fiji looked pretty competitive in the first half. They have, you know, the skills that you expect from them as well, with the offloads and keeping the ball alive. Maybe not enough organization to kind of dig out, you know, in the second half and kind of soak up pressure when Scotland are attacking. Scotland, bit of a mixed result for them. They'd be happy for the win. Like the two big talking points coming into this seem to be, one was Hogg's hair, which is kind of weird thing to be talking about, but there seemed to be a lot of talk about that, and he actually put out a statement about it as well. For me, like, well, first of all, I wish I had his hair, but I don't give a shit about someone's hair. I just want to watch good rugby. But then the second thing was Finn Russell left out of the squad by Gregor Townsend. Talk of, like, you know, if Russell can't play under Townsend, then should Scotland replace Townsend before the World Cup and get somebody new in there? But Russell has been called in for this week's game against the All Blacks. Yeah, so those are kind of the two big talking points from Scotland. It's a win for them, but not really a convincing win, and they're kind of in that bracket of team, really. And I'd put kind of Scotland, I think Australia fit kind of in the same bracket as well. Wales, they're all kind of the type of teams where they can produce a performance and beat like the top kind of tier teams in the world. Like we've seen them beating England, France. They haven't beaten New Zealand yet. Well, Scotland, South Africa, and Ireland. Like, we know they're capable of beating those teams, but they haven't shown enough consistency to show that they can be a top side and be a threat at a World Cup or anything like that. Sometimes in rugby, it's learning what doesn't work that helps your team more than just everything going fine. So we'll see how Scotland come out of this. For Fiji, you can see that they are, you know, benefiting from having a team in Super Rugby. They seem to be somewhat fitter than we would normally see them, but as well, there's still that whole thing of getting more tier one opposition and not just being kind of, you know, the likes of Fiji and Samoa really, like, and I think Japan as well, they're almost a filler side for the November internationals. It's where, like, every week there's a scramble for, you know, when they're planning it out, obviously, scramble for, okay, can we get New Zealand? Can we get South Africa? Can we get Australia? And then if it's a no for that, then it's okay, well, let's get one of the other teams to fill in instead. So I'd like to see, I talked about it for Samoa, I'd just like to see more teams getting, you know, tests, regular tests against tier one sides. I think that would really benefit rugby overall. Next up for these teams then, Scotland have New Zealand at the weekend. Finn is back, but is that enough for them to pull off a win against, you know, people are saying it's a poor New Zealand side, but a poor New Zealand side is still a pretty good side. So it's going to be, they're really going to have to be perfect, and Finn's going to have to produce not just one moment of magic, probably a number of moments of magic to get them that win. For Fiji then, they're going to be playing Ireland next week. It is going to be a much changed Ireland side. We're going to see a lot of players, you know, moving from the bench into the starting team. Tadhg Furlong is actually going to be the captain of the Ireland team as well. And then we're going to see more of the wider squad involved there. I'm expecting kind of something similar, maybe scoreline wise, to this, but expecting Fiji to be better in terms of now they're going to have a second week together, so their cohesion should be better than it was against Scotland. And then from the Ireland point of view, hoping to see some players really putting the hands up for Rugby World Cup spot. Wales 23, New Zealand 55. So Wales went into this one with some optimism. I wouldn't say a lot of confidence, but certainly some optimism about breaking that, you know, was it since 1950 something, they haven't beaten the All Blacks. It's the All Blacks who start off the better of the two teams. So Wales they're on attack, but Surveyor managed to turn the ball over. They moved the ball quickly. New Zealand's still probably the best team in the world at that transition from defense to attack. Tui Palada makes a burst upfield. He gets them into the 22. New Zealand then worked their way up to the line, and then Cody Taylor is able to burrow his way over. Taylor then gets himself, he got a second try then. So his second try was closer to the line. They were going through the phases and driving at the line, and he's able to burrow over again. So he gets the second try of the game. New Zealand in command. Wales, in the first half, they were kind of staying in touch a lot with penalties. They did get a first half try through Rio Dyer. Rio Dyer has been in fantastic form for the Dragons in the URC, and it's good to see that he got rewarded for that with his debut here, and he gets a debut try as well. So a really memorable day for him, even if the scoreline is not going to be one that the Welsh people are going to want to reflect on. But Wales, they go for a line out, turns into a maul. They spread the ball from the maul. There's some really good running lines, and Dyer picks a nice line. He's picked out as well. He goes over for that one. And Wales, from here on, for a while, they kind of stay within that kind of 1 score, 2 score possible comeback range. But, they never really get to the point where you could see them really threatening New Zealand. They never get themselves ahead. But at this point, you're still thinking, okay, it's possible they could do it. They're going to have to step up their performance and deliver more moments like this to do it, but it's still something that could happen. Then we have the first of Jordie Barrett's tries. So New Zealand on attack. Mo'unga spots him out on the wing against Dyer. There is a bit of a height differential between them, so he kicks the ball over. Barrett collects the ball and he goes over for the try. Wales get another penalty. Yeah, they got another penalty before half time. So halftime score is 13-22. Again, it's a 9-point game. You're thinking, okay, well, if Wales have a fantastic second half, it's certainly possible to do it. But then New Zealand, they start out in the second half. It's the first of Aaron Smith's tries, so they're on attack. There doesn't seem to be much on, and they're either just inside the 22 or just on the 22 line, around that kind of area. Takes the ball and he kind of runs sideways, and then he sees that there are 2 forwards. He bursts between them and puts on a nice step as well and gets over for the try. It's not a typical Aaron Smith kind of try. He's very good at support. He's very good at passing. We don't really see, a break from him. But when you think a scrum, the way a scrum half plays, sometimes the opposition can maybe switch off and think, oh, well, it's Aaron Smith. He's obviously going to pass. He's not going to break, but he's able to break there. And it's a pretty decent score. Then I believe we have Justin Tipuric's try. So Wales trying to hit back. There's a kick from, I think it was Priestland, right? Priestland puts the ball up. Mo'unga, he goes up to collect the ball. He's under a bit of pressure. He knocks the ball back, and Tipuric is able to gather, and he scores. There is a bit of a TMO review because they weren't sure whether it was just Mo'unga lost the ball or whether it was actually a knock on from the Welsh player, and then also whether Tipuric had control of the ball when he scored, but decided that's fine. And then Mo'unga as well, just to mention, later on in the game, it was Anscombe, I think, who charged down, I think, a Barrett clearance, right? Bodie Barrett went for the kick. He charged it down. Looks like Anscombe, the ball sits up lovely for him. He gets it and he goes for the corner, but Mo'unga just comes across with a really good covering tackle and gets him into touch a few meters from the line. Mo'unga's game, all-around game, I think, has really improved. He was really good from the tee as well. His kicking out of hand was good, and that cover defence was brilliant too. At this point then, Wales are about, I think, 6 points back, and that's as close as they get from there. After that, then New Zealand just start pulling away, and you can kind of see towards the end Welsh heads dropping. And I think it really is for Wales. It's a mental thing against New Zealand where, to break that hoodoo, everything has to go right for you and you have to fully believe. I'm sure the players will tell you that they believe that they can beat New Zealand, but when you're out on the pitch like that and it's almost like you're thinking that everything is conspiring against you for you to lose the game, and it's very hard to get over that. And I think if Wales, if they are going to beat New Zealand, it's either just going to be an absolutely stellar performance from them where they get out to a lead and then, they're able to close out the game, or that they're just able to hang into a game and win it at the death. I think to beat New Zealand, even this New Zealand team, you do have to have a bit of a cushion because they can come back and they can score tries, in a couple of minutes. So you're not even safe if you've got like a 10-point cushion or whatever. And that's, I think, for the confidence of the Welsh players, they probably need something like that. They would need a cushion rather than being able to chase the game, because chase the game against this New Zealand side, you're just offering them space, and they love space and they love to counterattack and to pounce on your mistakes. But back to the game then. So talking of mistakes, like I don't know who it was that bought Ari Surveyor's dummy, but geez, like it was ridiculous dummy. Like the way he shaped, like with the dummy, it was almost like he was going to throw the ball directly up into the air, but Welsh defence bought it. He goes through. Smith is there on his shoulder, offloads to Smith. Smith goes over, gets a try that really, I think at that point then the game was done. Wales were not coming back. Surveyor then, from close in, he goes over himself. He gets the ball down. There was kind of a hint of a hand under the ball, but you can see on the replay that he does get the ball down. And from there, New Zealand are just kind of stretching out. Then we have Barrett's second try. So nice hands. New Zealand, they're kind of like attacking close to the post, put him through a gap. He goes in kind of unopposed. Funny then, Tau Keoha, he's at the back of a maul and he breaks off and goes over for the final try for New Zealand. Final score 55-23. This New Zealand team are not as bad as people are making out. They did have a bad patch, but to score 55 points against a tier 1 nation, you've got to be playing pretty well. From the point of view of Wales, on this performance, it's going to be a long time before they do get that win against New Zealand. They are a confidence-based team. They didn't seem to have it today. Heads went down. I have seen a lot of talk about, Pivac under pressure, and then he's, people want him out. But I can't honestly see them changing coach now this close to the World Cup. People will cite that South Africa did it 18 months before the last World Cup, but many other teams, most of the teams who've gone on and did well in a World Cup stuck by their coach. So bring in a new coach, it could take more than a year. We saw it with Andy Farrell taking over in Ireland, where he was already, part of the coaching team there. And for that first year, even I'm very optimistic about Ireland, but even I was thinking what is he doing? Couldn't see that we were making any kind of progress at all. And, if it was up to fans, he probably would have gone after a year. And now look where we are. I'm not saying that Pivac is going to absolutely turn Wales around in next year or not. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm not saying that a new coach may not have time to make an impact for the World Cup next year. It's less than a year away now. In terms of then what's next up for these guys, so we have for New Zealand, they're going to take on Scotland, another team who have never beaten them. That's the Sunday game, I believe. And, New Zealand will be pretty confident of keeping that record going. They seem to be in a little bit of form now. and they're probably going to make changes and give some of the wider squad a chance as well in that game. Wales playing Argentina, a very dangerous fixture for them. We saw Argentina turning over England last week, and it's probably going to be a tight game between those two. Wales are going to want to get a win for the confidence. Argentina on a roll. Ireland 19, South Africa 16. So there's a full separate video on this game on the channel. So if you want to go and check that one out, you can see it in a bit more in depth. I'm going to be very brief here because I've already covered the game. So first half, South Africa very physical. They're disrupting Ireland at the breakdown, slowing the ball down. They're very aggressive in the defence as well, causing Ireland to make mistakes and lose ground. Ireland, though, are standing up to them physically, probably more than we would have expected them to. It ends up then being a tight first half, 6-all. Willemse, not very good from the tee, and actually the kicking duties are taken off him and given to Colby for the second of their penalties. Into the second half then, South Africa still being very physical. Ireland beginning to find a bit of space. Ireland then have a penalty within kicking range. Sexton and James Ryan have a bit of a chat. They decided they're going to go for the corner. They kick to the corner. Ireland take the line out, win the line out. They go for the driving maul. South Africa, very good maul defence, able to shepherd them into touch. But then Josh van der Flier is still on the ground celebrating. So we go to the TMO and we see that van der Flier, in the middle of all of that's happening, he's able to get the ball down just on the line before they're out, and he's able to keep his body and his legs in field as well. So fantastic try from them. I don't know whether it was an Irish tactic to try and do that, to keep the carrier so far in so the South Africa felt that they put them out, but if they did, it was a ballsy move. Either way, well done to van der Flier for keeping his head in there and getting the try. Ireland then get their second try through Hansen. So ball comes out of a ruck. How the ball comes out of a ruck. So Rassie Erasmus posted one of his infamous videos on social media about it, showing the ball coming out and saying that, well, not saying, but it kind of indicating that there was probably an Irish foot in there, and that probably was from Sheehan, but Sheehan was in the middle of being illegally neck rolled out of that ruck as well when his foot made contact with the ball. But that's kind of by the by. Doris does really well to keep the ball in play under pressure. He offloads inside. There is then a moment where people said the ball might have been forward, it might not have been forward, between Porter and Beelum, but after the pass is given, one player is knocked back, and the other player is faced the opposite way that you'd expect them to be. So it's maybe a bit of an optical illusion on that. But the ball then finds its way to Jameson Gibson Park. He goes through a gap. They spread the ball out wide. They're in the 22 at that point. There is some space out on the wing. Jimmy O'Brien does really well to fix Colby in defence. He gives the ball off to Hansen. Hansen goes in. Then South Africa starts to come back. They get a bit of territory in the Irish half, and they are, Ireland seem to have their defence set. They're maybe about 10 metres out, but Mostert is able to get in between two defenders, and then he's able to stretch out as well and get the ball, round the ball on the line. Then Sexton kicks a penalty for Ireland, which turned out to be pretty crucial, given the final score. But South Africa do come back and score another try through Curtly Arendse. So Faf de Klerk is on. He gets the ball out. He gets it to Willie Leroux. Leroux, as he's falling, offloads to Etzebeth. Etzebeth then puts a bit of a looping run in towards the corner. He draws in three Irish defenders and then gets his hands free and pops the ball over to Arendse, who goes in the corner. The conversion is missed. But then from there, South Africa like there's about maybe 2 or 3 minutes left, I think, at that point. But South Africa don't offer any threat from there. The game finishes with Ireland on attack in their 22. It looked like if Ireland needed to score a penalty, they could. If they needed to score a try, there was plenty of space out on the left wing. There's also space in behind the South African defence. And Ireland just end up, clock was into red, kick the ball off the field and get the win. So it wasn't like a last-ditch defence from Ireland with South Africa coming at them. But still, it was a great game to watch. Definitely two of the world's best teams going at each other for 80 minutes. Next up then for Ireland is Fiji at the weekend. There are a lot of changes to the Irish team. Furlong is actually going to be the captain on that one. We're going to see a lot of the Warrior squad being used as well. South Africa, it doesn't get any easier for them. They're going to Paris to take on France. That's definitely the pick of the games for next weekend. France 30, Australia 29. Another cracker of a game. So this one started out the first kind of 10 or 12 minutes. Foley and Ramos are trading penalties for 6-all. Then Australia, probably with the try of the weekend, they go coast to coast. They decide to run the ball out of their own 22. Wright makes a break down the left wing. He then finds Campbell, who carries the ball into the 22. And then he puts Fekete away under the posts. It's converted. Australia then are at 13-6 up. At that point, France then another couple of penalties from Ramos, who's just kicking penalties from everywhere. Like the guy has really like a siege gun of a boot, and he was fairly accurate as well. He brings them back to 1 point game. Looks like though France are probably going to go in at the break behind, but France are one of the best teams in the world of finding a score just in that period where, people are maybe thinking about halftime and switch off a little bit. France seem to always be switched on around that time to be able to find a gap or, to make a try. This one, I think it might have been Fiku. Fiku puts a kick from outside the 22 into the Australian 22, kind of close to the post. It looked like he might have gotten taken out late. Australia diving the ball to try and regather, but France arrive and they just swamp the area. They turn the ball back over, and Marchand is able to force his way over just to the left of the post. It's converted then, and France are up 19-13 at the break. We then have, again, France getting a few more penalties from Ramos. Foley got a few penalties as well to Australia, keeping them in. But then we have the second try from Australia. So Australia on the attack. They're deep in the 22. Foley is kind of center round about where the posts are. He puts in a lovely long pass to find Campbell, and Campbell has options on either shoulder, and he's able to glide through a gap and score. 5 minutes to go, then Australia up by, 29-25, I think. So France, they needed to score a try. They couldn't just go for a penalty. Jalabert, right? Yeah, Jalabert is on, and he puts in like just a lovely long pass that finds Pinot. But looking at it, you think like Australia, their defense is set. They've also got cover in behind, but he just puts on speed and feet, and he just dances his way through them and gets over for the try. From an Australian point of view, you're probably thinking that absolutely should have been defended. He should have either been put into touch or just, taken down and not allowed to go over the way he did. But it was just a bit of magic from him. Wins the game then for France. Australia, though, can take a lot out of this, even though it is a loss. They're showing that there is some good back play, but also like that their forwards are stood up as well to the physicality of the French. And it looks like maybe Foley, I know there's a lot of talk in Australia about people not wanting Foley to be 10, and then we have like the kind of the spectre of Quade Cooper there as well. But he did pretty well in this game. He got his kicks. Hodge also got a long range kick, and that's probably something with Foley, is that he doesn't have a great range on him kicking wise, but passing wise is pretty good. And again, like Australia are kind of like France and not really up to the level of New Zealand, but they're the kind of teams who their transition from defense to attack is very quick, and it's going to catch out a lot of other teams. And this Australia team are going to give a lot of top sides in the world pretty tough games. Obviously, Australia want to see themselves kind of higher up in the higher tier, but we just have to wait and see what comes for them in the future. In terms of next week then for France, so France have South Africa coming to town, a wounded South Africa as well. So that is absolutely going to be an amazing game. Australia taking on Italy. Probably going to see them giving some of the wider squad a run out on that one. You would expect them to win the game. I'm hoping that Italy do give them a bit more of a run on that one, but I won't say guaranteed win for Australia because that's a bit disrespectful to Italy. But certainly, if you had to pick one of the two, you would say that Australia are definitely the favourites to win that. England 29, Argentina 30 was the Sunday game. So started off with some exchange of penalties between Farrell and Buffelli. Then England are kind of the first to strike out. I believe it was a scrum, right? They have a scrum pretty close to the Argentinian line. They get the ball to Cognacina. It's just pure power from him. Like he bursts over the line. He's got like 2 or 3 or maybe even more like Argentinian defenders around him, trying to hold him up, but he just shows that power to be able to push his way over the line and get himself down and get the ball down as well for the try. Buffelli gets another couple of penalties for Argentina to kind of keep them in touch, and Farrell gets a penalty as well for England just before halftime. Halftime score is 16-12. It looking like it's going according to the script for England at this stage, but second half, then right at the start, Argentina tear up the script. So England on attack, Argentina's like they've got a good rush defense, and they get in there, and I think it was Farrell had the ball. Ball is dislodged in the tackle, and Carreras, lovely pickup on the run. He picks it up, and then it's just a foot race between him and Stewart from about maybe 60 meters out. Stewart couldn't run him down, so Carreras goes in pretty much under the post. It's converted then, Argentina in the lead, but then England hit back at them. So Van Poortvliet, England are kind of like they're just outside the Argentinian 22. There is a ruck, and I guess Argentina were just watching to see where he was going to pass the ball. But he picks and snipes, goes between 2 Argentinians, shows good pace then, and is able to get over. It's converted by Farrell. Then kind of towards the end, like it's nip and tuck between the teams. Buffelli gets a penalty to nudge Argentina ahead, and then Farrell replies. And then finally Buffelli gets a penalty. Would have been about maybe 10 minutes to go or something. He scores the last points of the game. England not really able to produce anything from there, and Argentina finish comfortably inside the English half and just get the ball off the pitch to finish the game. Great win for Argentina. We've seen, a lot of great results for them under Checa, and this is just another one to add to that list. And it looks like they're coming good for the World Cup. The last time the World Cup was in France, they were in the same pool as the hosts, France and Ireland. I remember that World Cup very, very well because I was at it. And so Argentina beat France in the opening game. They also beat Ireland as well. And Ireland got eliminated at the pool stage. Argentina, they went on. I'm trying to remember, did they go out in the quarterfinals? They might have gone out in the quarters, but the pool performance there was really good, and it looks like they're coming good for another World Cup as well. In terms of England, just talking about the World Cup, Eddie Jones talked about afterwards that his focus on the World Cup maybe led to the defeat today. He's like him or loathe him, Eddie really does have a bit of a mouth on him, and sometimes he says things that are maybe, that you don't really want to hear your head coach saying, but what he's really good at is trying to get all the pressure from the media on him rather than on his players, and he's very good at deflecting like that. If I'm an England fan, I want to see my team win now. Certainly, if he does get them to a final and actually delivers a World Cup for them, all will be forgiven. But still, as a fan of the team, you want your team going out every week and trying to win and building that confidence that the players are going to need for a run to the final, because there are going to be games that are like this that are tight, where you're going to have to dig in for that final 10 minutes and produce something to win the game. And the worry is that if they can't do it now, why are they suddenly going to flick a switch and be able to do it in a quarterfinal, semi-final or final? Next up for the teams then, England have Japan, Eddie's former team. Certainly going to see a lot of changes to the England team for that one. Expect Japan to give them a decent game at least. Then for Argentina, they're up against Wales. They're going to want to get another Six Nations scalp in that one. Wales are going to want to see some kind of reaction from the drubbing that they got from New Zealand. That's the end of our look back at last week's Autumn Nations series fixtures. Some really cracking games on there, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend's ones coming up as well. Let me know how you think your team are shaping up and how do you think they're going to go this weekend.